Forget everything you think you know about true crime. For decades, investigators have chased motives, reconstructed timelines, and hunted suspects through evidence that behaves according to known physical laws. But 2026 introduced something different, something deeply unsettling. Across multiple unsolved cases around the world, crime scenes began presenting details that didn't just confuse investigators. They contradicted the rules that normally govern reality itself. We're not talking about clever staging, forensic contamination, or advanced criminal planning. We're talking about anomalies, details so precise, so isolated, and so resistant to explanation that they remain frozen in investigative reports as permanent question marks. Imagine discovering a single, perfectly blooming flower in an environment where nothing could survive. Picture a footprint pressed into terrain that physically cannot hold impressions. Or consider a digital signature appearing on an encrypted device with no origin point, no transmission, no system access, no trace of human interaction. These are not theories. These are documented forensic irregularities that continue to challenge interpretation. Welcome to Mr. Whisper's Official, where we explore the mysteries that refuse to fade into silence. If you read drawn to the unsettling edges of true crime, the details that linger long after the case files close, make suit you. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Because tonight, we are not examining criminals. We are examining the impossible. Across 2026, investigators repeatedly reported one shared experience: confusion that felt almost existential. Experienced forensic teams, professionals trained to reduce chaos into measurable data, found themselves confronting evidence that resisted categorization. Not destroyed evidence, not missing evidence, present evidence that simply should not exist. And perhaps what makes these cases even more disturbing is that they are not connected by geography, victim profile, or criminal pattern. Yet they share one haunting similarity. Each scene contains a single detail that behaves as though it exists outside normal environmental interaction. Tonight, we will examine 3 categories of anomalies that have unsettled experts worldwide. First, physical traces that contradict environmental physics. Second, digital artifacts that appear without technological origin. And third, biological and environmental signals that seem to respond to events in ways science cannot currently explain. As we move deeper, consider this carefully. If a crime scene reflects interaction between a perpetrator and an environment, what does it mean when the environment itself appears to behave independently? And perhaps the most unsettling question of all, are these anomalies evidence of something interfering or something observing? The desert murder site was, by all measurable standards, sterile, located within an arid region where wind constantly redistributes surface particles. The terrain behaves like a natural eraser. Tracks rarely last more than minutes. Yet, when investigators arrive at the scene of a 2026 homicide, they discovered a single footprint approximately 3 meters from the victim's body. One print. No entry pattern. No exit pattern. No disturbance surrounding it. The depth suggested full body weight, yet the surrounding grains showed no compression ripple, something that should occur when pressure transfers outward. Even more perplexing, high-resolution scans revealed the particulate structure beneath the print had not been displaced downward. Instead, it appeared momentarily fused, as though compressed without movement. Replication attempts failed. Mechanical presses produced displacement. Human stepping produced scatter patterns. Even controlled vacuum compression could not reproduce the formation. The footprint existed as a geometric impossibility, pressure applied without kinetic transfer. Weeks later, in an unrelated investigation, thousands of kilometers away, digital forensic analysts encountered a different but equally disturbing anomaly. Victim. is a personal data vault encrypted with multi-layer biometric authentication, contained a time-stamped access event recorded at 2:17 a.m. The system log confirmed interaction, yet no user credentials were entered. No remote signal penetrated the network. No hardware interface activated. The signature itself had no identifiable structure. Not a corrupted packet. Not an algorithmic glitch. Not malware residue. It resembled authorization, without origin, as if the system acknowledged a presence that never communicated. Engineers attempted reconstruction using isolated hardware environments. They introduced artificial log injections, electromagnetic interference, firmware corruption, and time desynchronization models. Nothing replicated the signature pattern. The anomaly behaved as though the system had momentarily recognized something beyond defined access parameters. Two case. One physical, one digital. Both demonstrating interaction without mechanism. Forensic specialists rarely use emotional language in official commentary, yet internal memos from both investigations contained an unusual phrase repeated multiple times. No causal chain identified. In scientific analysis, absence of causal chain does not imply mystery. It implies incomplete data. But what happens when data is exhaustive and causality still cannot be constructed? If evidence represents action, then what creates evidence without action? Biological anomalies introduce an entirely different category of unease, because living systems respond predictably to environmental constraints, or at least they are supposed to. In a densely industrial urban homicide scene, concrete flooring, chemical residue, no natural light exposure, investigators documented the presence of a single exotic flower placed approximately 1 meter from the victim. The species was identified as native to a humid equatorial ecosystem located thousands of miles away, yet the bloom showed no dehydration, no cellular breakdown, and no transport damage. Pollen grains remained structurally intact. Stem vascular channels contained active moisture pressure consistent with ongoing metabolic function. In simpler terms, the flower was alive, fully alive, and laboratory attempts to culture identical specimens under controlled transit conditions resulted in visible deterioration within hours. This specimen, however, showed no stress markers whatsoever. No fingerprints, no soil transfer, no airborne spore trail whose presence. In 2 additional 2026 cases, behavioral anomalies were documented among nearby animals prior to body discovery. In one instance, a flock of migratory birds circled a suburban structure continuously for nearly 72 hours without landing, a pattern never recorded in known navigation behavior. In another, a domestic dog located half a kilometer from a rural crime scene exhibited sustained distress. Vocalization directed toward a fixed geographic point, refusing food, water, or movement for extended periods before investigators even identified the location of the incident. Animals respond to stimuli: scent, sound, electromagnetic change, predator, threat. Yet environmental measurement detected no triggering factors sufficient to explain sustained reaction. This raises an uncomfortable possibility. If animals and plant systems respond to subtle environmental shifts beyond human sensory detection, could these anomalies represent responses to something investigators cannot measure? Or more unsettling still, are biological systems perceiving events before they occur? Environmental anomalies present perhaps the most structurally measurable and therefore most disturbing evidence category. Because when instruments designed for precision produce contradictions, interpretation becomes profoundly difficult. At a rural abduction site documented in late 2026, field investigators reported complete electronic instability within a confined radius, measuring approximately 11 meters in diameter. Devices entering the area experienced simultaneous disruption across unrelated systems. Digital compasses rotated without directional alignment. Recording equipment produced layered static frequencies, inconsistent with known electromagnetic bands, and battery discharge rates accelerated without thermal increase. Most notably, analog mechanical watches, which operate independently of electromagnetic fields, experience microtemporal desynchronization, losing fractional seconds at irregular intervals, before returning to standard function upon exiting the zone. No natural geological formation capable of generating such a localized effect was identified. No artificial emitter was detected, and most perplexingly, the field appeared only intermittently fluctuating in intensity without external trigger. In another investigation, meteorological instruments recorded a sudden atmospheric shift lasting precisely 43 seconds during the discovery of a missing person's site. Temperature dropped rapidly, barometric pressure spiked, and wind vectors reversed direction simultaneously within a confined region. Satellite weather imaging showed no macrosystem influence. The anomaly emerged, stabilized briefly, and vanished, leaving surrounding climate patterns unchanged. Environmental systems typically require energy transfer to produce measurable change. Yet these events displayed transformation without detectable energy origin. When surroundings respond without stimulus, we must consider an unsettling framework. What if environments can register events in ways not yet understood, not react chemically or physically, but register them structurally? Could places themselves retain disturbance across deserts, cities, rural landscapes, and digital networks? The anomalies of 2026 share one defining characteristic: isolation. Each irregularity appears singular, precise, and resistant to replication. They do not form patterns in the traditional investigative sense. They do not escalate predictably. They simply appear embedded within otherwise conventional crime scenes, like signatures left by processes we cannot yet define. A footprint without displacement, a system access without transmission, a living flower without environmental support, animals responding to invisible stimuli, electromagnetic fields without source, weather events without atmospheric cause. Individually, each anomaly challenges explanation. Together, they challenge assumption. True crime has always depended on the principle that every effect has a traceable cause. But what happens when causes become untraceable? Not hidden, but structurally absent. Are these events rare natural phenomena we have not yet learned to measure? Unknown technological interference operating beyond detectable range? Statistical coincidence amplified by investigative focus? Or something more fundamental, something suggesting that human understanding of environmental interaction is still incomplete? And here is where the investigation shifts from forensic analysis to collective reasoning. What do you think connects these anomalies? Are they independent irregularities, or fragments of a larger pattern forming just beyond recognition? If environments, biological systems, and digital networks can all register disturbances that leave no causal pathway, what does that imply about the nature of presence itself? Share your theories in the comments. Every perspective matters, logical, speculative, or somewhere in between, because the most unsettling possibility is not that these cases remain unsolved. It's that we may not yet possess the framework required to solve them. If you want more deep investigations into the unexplained edges of true crime, the details most people overlook, the anomalies that refuse silence, subscribe to Mr. Whisper's Official and join us in future explorations. Some mysteries fade, others wait.